We want to buy. Okay, great. Okay, great. But okay. One more. I'm not taking any home.
Lucky last.
But anybody else who wants to, it's on the website. They can order. Hey, John, go show.
Is it looking good? I like yellow. I feel it's a little bit blurry. I didn't know it was going to be so blurry at a distance, so
Blurry.
and then the microphone. I don't know. Hopefully it'll work. We'll see what happens. We might need some better equipment. All right. We'll see what happens.
The second half, we need some recycled paper. Anybody, or does anybody have a sheet of paper each? For the second half, we don't need a desk.
I don't have recycled paper, but I have paper.
If you have paper, that's good. Everybody needs one sheet, so we're going to do it
Yeah, I have
at
like
the end.
a ton.
I have a few really thick. I couldn't bring everything.
I really just feel
At
like
your presentation, I bring us good things like I'm running away from it. Hello. Hello. Thank you very much. They all say yes. Our famous defender. The nice student. Oh.
Yeah.
So it seems to me the other people are coming, are not coming because they get busy.
That look good. Oh, look.
Don't take the limelight from Deborah.
Okay, right. Anyway, good afternoon, children. And let's see, welcome to a joint ETJ High School and JALTOmiya special event. I'm just reading her card here. This is today's presenter. Yeah. Right, Deborah Grohl, who is the Il Presidente, President and CEO of English Guard. Did I say correct? Or not? English Guard. Okay, and well, I'll leave it to her to tell you what she's going to be doing with you kids today. All right? Thank you. Enjoy.
I'm very happy to be here today. Thank you for inviting me. I'm very happy to be with you. I feel like teachers need time together to explore ideas, so I won't be talking at you. I want to involve you, and I want to get your ideas, and I'll also be learning from you today. So I learn from my students a lot, and I teach from babies on up to university, so I think each lesson is a chance to learn and to grow, and that's what we're here for today. So I'll tell you a little bit about the presentation today. I want to talk about music. My background is music, and how to use music in the classroom, and perhaps the value of bringing more music into the classroom. And I want to bring in some brain-based research on how music is valuable and what it can do for you mentally. So the part one I want to talk about is the higher mental faculties and music. So some of the first part of the presentation might be geared to older learners, but I'll also tell you how I'm incorporating this with younger learners. So in my school, the English Garden, I teach from actually children under 1. I think my youngest student is 7 months old. I teach rhythmics to children from 0 to 6, and then shogakse, and then I have adult students, and I have singing lessons for adults, which I'll talk a little bit about that too. Singing lessons. And then I teach part-time at Tsukuba University, my spare time. And then my other spare time, I write books and songs. I usually say in my spare time, I try to find some spare time. So this is my background. I'm a professional singer and actor from New York, and I worked on Broadway, and I did a lot of TV commercials, and I did radio commercials, I did theater and musicals and opera. And I have a master's in vocal performance and a BA in theater and music, so that's my background. So I've been teaching for about 15 years, mostly young learners, but also adults. So my teaching experience has been very hands-on, very experience-based, and I have done a lot of research on my own into the theory about how the brain works, especially using music. So that's my passion. And I write books and songs for children, which is a lot of work, but a lot of fun, and it's a real adventure, and I've been learning a lot in that as well. So first of all, I wanted to talk about your brain. And then we'll talk about your brain and how this all relates to music. So your brain versus my dog's brain. So, but animals seem very intelligent, and well, mine doesn't always, but they seem very intelligent. And what have you got that he hasn't got? So what do we have that we can use in learning that animals don't have? So we'll talk about our brains a little bit. So your marvelous mind. There's the triune brain theory with Dr. Paul MacLean, and he says really the brain is 3 in 1. And there's the reticular formation and the limbic system, which is just 10%, 5%, 10%, and the cerebral cortex is 85%. I was doing some research even yesterday. I start looking, and then it takes hours. I get involved in what I'm looking at. And there were some recent studies about music that actually music lights up the whole brain. It's not just the cerebral cortex. But in the limbic system itself, which is the seat of emotion, that's where rhythm is being processed. And that's the part where if language is misconstrued, it would be called And a few scientists are doing, and teams are doing some research about that. One is in Finland, and one was out of Stanford University. How when you listen to music, your entire brain is activated. So the reticular formation is your sensory and your heartbeat and things, automatic, but it's also your goal-achieving center. So I think music can also motivate people in their goal achieving. So if your goal is to learn English, it will help you find ways to do it. You'll be catching English songs on the train. You'll be catching English conversation when you hear it. So you start looking, your brain starts looking, how can I help you achieve your goal? And I know that my university students listen to music every day. I've only had a couple over the 5 years I've taught at school that tell me they don't listen to music. So if we can grab them with their interest, this can also help them achieve their goal of speaking English. And the limbic system is your emotions and certain memories and glandular control. And then the cerebral cortex is what I want to talk mostly about, and that's your higher thinking processes, or your higher mental faculties, and how they relate to music. So what are the higher mental faculties? And I said, I'm going to confuse that with mental higher faculties. So what do you think they are? Your higher mental faculties. What do you think they are? Any ideas? What is different from your brain and, say, the brain of a dog or a cat?
Planning.
Planning? Okay.
Do you always think of the future?
Okay, yeah, okay. Anybody else? What can you do that animals can't do? Why is your brain different? Why is it that they have a functional brain?
Perception.
Perception. So there are higher mental faculties. And this is what I came up with from the research that I did. That we have imagination and intuition, memory, perception, will. And for my purposes, we'll talk about focus and concentrated effort and reason. So I want to talk about some ways that we can start incorporating these higher faculties to help children or help anyone we're teaching English, and how music could be a part of that. So first, imagination. So it's seeing a mental picture of something that is not in physical form. So imagination. So we're going to talk about some ways that we can use imagination. So I think if we can capture imagination of people, they can expand their vocabulary, they could expand their image of themselves, they could expand how they think about things and how they learn. So we think in pictures. If I said let's think about your house or your car, you get a mental image. You don't think the word C-A-R. You think in pictures. So if you can expand what people are seeing in their imagination, that will help them learn, I believe. So some work that I'm doing, I'm writing thematic material for children. And in it, I try to incorporate one of the cognitive skills to help them. So help them develop also their higher faculties of learning. So this is one of the books in my set. So I'll let you see what I'm doing to capture their imagination and want them to do it again. Let's do it again. Let's see it again. So just show you this one. So this one is sort of circus music. So it's the magic rabbit. So you want to capture their imagination about a sense of play. I have a magic rabbit, yes I do, it's true. I have a magic rabbit, I'll show her to you. I have a magic rabbit, count with me, 1, 2, 1, 2. Just look and on the count of 3, you'll see what she can do. And red rabbit, run, run, run. So we're not phonics, but you're having fun with the imagination of it. Red rabbit, get back in my hat. Red rabbit, watch out for my cat. And then we look for the cat. Where's the cat now? Right? I have a magic rabbit, yes I do, it's true. I a magic rabbit. Count with me, 1, 2, 1, 2. Just look and on the count of 3, you'll see what she can do. Green, green rabbit, go, go, go. Blue rabbit, pink rabbit, stop. Oh no. Yellow rabbit, orange rabbit, get back in my hat. I have some magic rabbits and a magic cat. And it goes back again. Green rabbit, green. But that'll give you an idea of trying to just catch imagination and to help them want to do it again. So that's what I do with little children and trying to develop imagination and a sense of fun about learning. Now what you could do some things with university students or even elementary school students. I do some of these activities. I'm going to get you busy doing some activities together. This I did with my university students. It always creates laughter. My shogakse can do it as well. They do it a little bit slower, but I'll have you do it together. So magical banana. I pick up things that people use, like kids are playing, what my kids are playing in the backseat of the car when they're not fighting, or you know. So things I hear on the playground when I taught kindergarten. So what are they doing? And then I turn it into an English game. So magical banana. Anybody know it already? No? So magical banana is, if I say banana, you say whatever comes into your mind. If I say banana, you say monkey. Monkey. And then you start. If I say monkey, you say. So if I say, so you say monkey, you say. No, we say zoo. If I say zoo, you say. Okay, so let's go together and see how far you can go. Okay? So if I do, yes. The words are not anything that pops in your mind, and there's no right or wrong. Anything goes. It's vocabulary building. And you can do. You can do it by three. You can do this. Okay. And you do this together. And can you do by three? Second day. So there's a rhythm to this too. If I say banana, you say and then you pickle. Right? So say what if
India. I say India, you say. I say tears, you say.
Okay, so you kind of get the hang of it, right? I made you. So I got them going, they don't want to stop. So what happens is it really gets people engaged. So always there's laughter, gets people engaged, it's vocabulary building, and it's fun, right? And there's no right and wrong, which is so, I think, so valuable in Japan, where everything is right or wrong. The right answer, let's get a right answer. There's no right answer. So just enjoy and say whatever pops into your mind. There's no right or wrong. It's very fun, I think. And even the university students have fun with this kind of thing. This next one is more difficult, and pretty high-level elementary school kids can do it at a slow pace. My university students found it a big challenge, which was interesting. So we're going to go slowly. This one is to a rhythm. Slap, slap, clap, clap, and then click, click. So, and I'll say, for example, I'm going to say green, blue. So it's two colors. You give two colors, and the other person has to say something green, something blue. Can you with me? So it's slap, slap, clap, clap, green, blue. Now we do, and then you have to say something green.
Green.
Yes, you have to do it in the rhythm. So, for example, the other person would say grass, sky. Okay? You have to go slowly enough that you can keep the rhythm. So your mind is working quickly to try to come up with something green or blue. Then you change the color. Then the other person changes the color. Red, white. And then you come up with blood, snow, or whatever. Right?
Okay.
Okay, you got it? You got the pattern? Slap, slap, clap, clap, click, click. So that's a color, color. And then there's the answer. Answer, answer. Something green, something blue.
Okay, so you're saying, for example, green, blue. For example, here's a grass, sky.
Yes, and then he starts, and then he gives me one different back. Yes, and then I answer, and then I give two new colors. So you got the pattern? I have, by the way, I have sheets for you guys explaining the game, so you can take a sheet later. So thank you. So now we have to remember what we did. Ready? Okay, you got it? Better go slowly. They have to answer that. You can, So you have to answer something. I think slower is better. You better go slower. The trick is to keep the rhythm. Oh, yeah. You got it? Got the idea of it, right? That was harder because you have to keep the rhythm and you have to come up with the color sync. You're thinking what's black, what's... But it's a fun game to do. And it's very Another thing you can do is probably university students, if they can interpret or write their own song lyrics or look up some song lyrics. Like one of the assignments I gave the university students this semester was to listen to anybody know Katie Lang? Canadian singer. Katie Lang's song, she has nice poetry, The Shadow and the Frame, and they had to listen online get the lyrics off the computer, write it in their notebook in English, and then tell me what they thought the song meant. It's pretty deep lyrics, and some of them I have no idea, and I said, well, give it a guess, you know, and write out what you think. And we went over it in class and what we thought, and they liked it, actually. They liked the assignment. And I'll give you some other examples how I'm using music at the university as well. So, I like Einstein's quotes, so imagination will take you everywhere. So just like the magical banana, really it takes you anywhere. There's no limit to the words you might come up with. The next one is intuition. So without direct knowledge, you know something without having any facts or figures about it. So everybody has it. Some people's intuition is very highly developed, and some people is not. Their intuition is not. But everybody has it. So if you were a kid and you came home and your mother's making soup and she's stirring a certain way and you know she's mad. She didn't say anything, but you knew something's up, right? So everybody has it. If somebody's lying to you, you know somebody's lying to you. Everybody's got it, right? Everybody has intuition. So what's intuitive about music? I think music is very, very intuitive. So first let's do a little exercise intuition building. That is not, this is not a music game, but let's try it. This is intuition building exercise. So I call it the group think. So your job is to figure out what the other people in your group would answer. So I'm going to give you a question, and you're going to think in your mind what the group would say as the answer. So same groups together. I'm going to give you a question. Don't say it out loud. Think what the other people, look at their faces, what would they answer for this answer, not what you would answer. Okay? You got it? What you think they would think. Okay, 自分のことじゃない。So your partner's face, well, 考えて, her answer is not right? So you think what it would be. So the first question is, what's the best thing to put inside onigiri? Oh. I said don't say it. You said it. Yeah, that's like the show back there. What did you think? Okay, so Evelyn, you think, what would they think? What do you think they would say? What would they think?
Best thing to put inside onigiri. No. See
if you're right. If you could like really think, what would they say?
I know already.
Okay, so check your answer. Were you right? Was anybody right? Did anybody get it right? Check the answer. So it's kind of hard, right? What's the best place to go on vacation? What's the best place to go on a night vacation? What would your partner say is the best place to go on vacation? Get them to think about it. Can you figure out what they're thinking? No. It's pretty hard, right? Hawaii. That's okay, let's try an easier one. What's the best pet? What's the best pet? What's the best pet? Best pet.
Dog.
What's the best So basically, are they a cat person or a dog person? Cat.
If you are hungry, you will drink. Yeah, big
So those are some fun exercises that you can try, and I did these with university students too, and they counted points, like what could they get. And of course, intuition for music is, because we grow up, we kind of take it for granted as native English speakers that songs rhyme. And we learn rhyming words and word families from the time we were born, maybe before we're born. We know word families. Japanese children's songs do not rhyme. And the whole concept of rhyming is like one hurdle, I think, that we need to get them to. Even the university students are like, what? And I say, look at these words at the end of these songs that you're listening to, right? They rhyme. They're like, oh, no. So it's not in their process of learning, and it's a huge way of teaching reading, of course, reading and also predicting what's coming. So you can memorize material and songs if you wanted to sing a song. And the university students in particular like some English music, and if you can say, now look at these words are rhyming words, and you can predict what's coming, even if you don't know. So sometimes in fill-in-the-blank things and listening, I have them look for the rhyming word. And you could also maybe write out some lyrics and say, what would you put in this blank? I was walking, it was a dark night, and there was no light. When I looked up, the moon was, he said, what are you going to put in there? What are you going to put in that sentence? So there is intuition. And of course, music is gives you a lot of clues what's going on. If you look at a soundtrack, if you listen to a soundtrack of a movie, you know when the climax is coming, you know the bad guy's coming, with the knife, when you hear the music, and then your heart's pounding, right? So if you watched a movie without the soundtrack, it completely loses the emotional impact of it. But also, because so many things are visual, 90% of our communication is visual, music can also give you clues what's going on. If you didn't know anything of, like, say you didn't know any German. I don't know if anybody speaks German here. But if you didn't know any German and you heard me sing Ich wollte dich für ein Fisch, so hütig und frisch. Now, would you say that's a sad song or that's a happy song? You could get a lot of clues just from the tempo and from the rhythm of it, from the feel of it, right? But if it's meine Ruhe ist hin, mein Herz ist schwer, you say, wait a minute, this is not so happy, right? So you get some clues automatically from music. So that helps too for your intuition. Okay, and intuition we discover, right? So you can trust your intuition more, I think. Memory. That's just such a big, huge part of music in learning, I think, because it makes it easy to memorize, and we'll talk a little bit about that. So how to remember? So there's been a lot of studies, probably you all are familiar with the studies about short-term memory that really, they used to say 7 chunks of information, now they tend to say only 4 chunks. So you can put some information into each chunk, and you can remember more information. Yalt in 91 said music with words were easier to remember, and there was a great boom of jingles and things like that in advertising. And long-term memory, of course, we want to move things from short-term memory into working memory into long-term memory. And music is really valuable for that. So Chan and Chung in 1998 said children who study musical instruments have more verbal memory than children who don't. The longer they have music training, the more verbal memory that they have. So they're finding more and more that children below the age of 7 with musical training can increase their memory, almost all their scores will go up. So it helps them to read. So developing memory. So this is another exercise just for memory. You all are probably familiar with it. I call it pass the buck, that you say it and then you say the next word as well. Like dog, you have to say dog, cat. Then you say dog, cat, elephant. We go around. And you try to remember. And I had the university students do this, and some of them were amazing. And the ones that did really, really well were filing information some way. They were tapping, they were using their fingers, they were doing something, especially the science kids. They were really good at it because they were filing it some way to remember it. So I'll give you Let's see how you can do on your memory. So let's go with animals. So you go dog, dog, cat. You have to say what she said and then add one.
I think okay, say dog.
Can you try the same group?
Cat. Dog, cat.
Like
Dog, cat.
Porcupine. Porcupine. Dog, cat, porcupine, pig.
Dog, cat. Dog, cat, pig.
Sorry? Blackbird. Blackbird.
Dog, cat, fish.
Sorry? Dog, cat, pig, camel, honey badger, orangutan.
Okay, so you guys are pretty good at it. And I notice again that people that are doing well at it are using their fingers or doing something, like to try to incorporate your mind and your body to remember the order and what's been said. And actually, I do this exercise now. With elementary school kids and younger children, I take a bean bag, and they don't have to repeat what was said before, but they have to say a different animal from what was said. And we just go around, we do it with fruit, and we just name a category, and we go around and we pass it, and we just keep saying until they can't think of anything. They'll say, oh, you said that, you said that. So they're remembering who said what. I did this yesterday with, you can see this. I do, for kids learning the alphabet, you could just put the ABCs here, and you put everything there, so they can see them and look at them. If you wanted to do with lowercase letters, you could do that. Also, I do it with sight words. So I put, instead of A, I would put ant, bat, cat, whatever, and all the way from A to Z. So, but you could do it with university students too. If you wanted to do it complicated vocabulary, you could put amazing or brilliant or whatever. You could put any vocabulary you wanted. One word for each letter of the alphabet. Then the teacher puts down on the paper A, B, C, D, F, G, the A to Z. So bada bada, you would call one. So you would say one. Okay, you say bat. You can't say them junban. You can't say it in order. So you would do, and you have to remember what was said. You have 3 chances to be wrong. So 3 buttons are out. But see who makes it till the end. So actually, my 2nd grade girls yesterday went through the whole alphabet, and they didn't miss any. So, yeah, they were good. So they did it. So I was impressed with them yesterday.
I'm curious. What was your X?
Well, X-ray. You can say X-ray. Pulse. But you could come up with something like this. So that's a fun one. Music. So we're going to work on see how music aids your memory. I'm going to give you 1 minute to remember these words. You have something to write on?
We don't have to write, right?
You have to write after I say, okay, now, what do you remember? Don't write down yet. Don't write anything yet. You're going to look at it, and then you're going to write down how many words you can remember. Okay? So I'll give you 1 minute. Go.
2, right? Wait.
Oh, okay. Wait. Okay. Right? Is it gone? I'm trying to redo it all. Right? Okay. Okay. Write down what you can remember. Okay?
Oh, wait a minute.
All right? You check? Okay, how did you do? How many words did you get? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There should be 19 because I weighed twice, right? There are 19? 4 times 5. There should be 20 except I put weight twice, so there are 19 words.
Yes.
How'd you do? Anybody get 19? Anybody get 15? Oh, good. Okay, good. Did you have some system?
I try to make sentence.
Usually there's some system that we use. Your brain tries to organize into some order. Are you remembering a column? Are you remembering it? But if you think how easy it is to remember when it's music. I was going to go to YouTube, but this is, some of you guys remember this, I hope. There was a commercial, I took out 2 words from there, because it would have given it away. So all of the words are in this song. See if you can find it. Hold on. So all of the words are in this. My baloney has a first name, it's M-A-Y-E-R. My baloney has a second name, it's O-S-C-A-R. Oh, I love to eat it every day. And if you ask me why, I'll say, because Oscar Mayer has a little B-O-L-O-G-N-A. So I took out Oscar Mayer and baloney, but they're all there, right? All the words are there. So if you have a little mnemonic device like that to remember vocabulary words, how easy is that? And the songs that you learn, especially as a child, never leave you. They never leave you. And the researchers that I've been studying say that the part of the brain that holds music is the last to atrophy. That's why people in nursing homes can sing the songs they do when they were young. So even people with brain damage can usually sing along. If you start singing a song, did anybody follow this story? Gabby Gifford, she was the congresswoman who got shot in the head at close range. And they're retraining her to speak and to remember. And they're using musical books, actually, books and music and childhood memories. And she can't speak. Maybe she's getting better now, but she couldn't speak, but she could sing what she wanted to say. And her feelings, she would come up with some song that she knew from when she was young. It didn't leave her. So it stays with you. So if you can harness this power that jingles have into getting kids to learn their vocabulary and to learn grammar chunks, then it makes it very easy. So anything, mnemonic devices are sentences. So you use sentences to remember, right? Rhythmic poems, alphabetized numbers, image, smell, touch, anagrams, and music. But interestingly, music has almost all of the others in it. So jingles, they stay with you. So that's what I'm trying to do with the books that I'm writing, is to make them as easy to remember as a jingle, with a catchy tune and phrases and chunks of grammar that you repeat over and over, and then they stick with you. You've got them. So I know my oldest son, he takes the A10 test, and he passed the A10 too. I don't know how, because he didn't study. He just say, you know, it just seemed right. That seemed like the right answer, because it's somewhere it's in there that he's heard it and he knows it. So, okay, so 3 jingles or theme songs from when you were young. Go. So some song like, if I said da da di 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 di, you know the words? You know it. No, I mean the Americans don't know it. The English speakers don't know it, but Japanese people probably know it, right? But do you know the words to it? Do you still know the words to that song? Yes, right? Okay, so how about you guys talk to each other? What can you sing from when you were 8 or 9 or 10 or some TV program that was on when you were little? Like a theme song, like, I bet you still know all the words. It's young person, or Sasai-san. You know the words to Sasai-san? Do you remember the words? So it doesn't leave you, right? Even if it was many years ago, it doesn't leave you. You'll remember. So songs you learned as a child, you know forever. You still can sing it, right? Like you didn't practice.
Do you know the meaning?
Right? You know it forever. You know it for life.
Wow.
So things you learn as a child stay with you forever. Whether they're good or bad songs, it doesn't really matter. You have them in life. You're stuck with them. So you still know them, right? So songs that you knew when you were little, you know forever. You will know them. So there actually were schools in the, I think it was the 1950s. There was called the Bornstein School of Memory in California. And they taught facts to children, history and math and everything, using music. So does anybody remember Cheers? Anybody remember Cheers? I love Cheers. It was this program on television. And actually one episode, they talked about this method of learning facts. So in the show, I was going to show YouTube, but in the show, there's a bartender, and he was a baseball player. And his coach is Ernie. And they go back to high school. They didn't finish high school. So they decided to go back to high school. And the coach is trying to help Sam, the owner, learn his facts. So he said, we learn our facts through music. And they actually took all of this information from this Bornstein School of Memory, which was a real school that one of the writers had gone to. So he sang, and I listened to it twice, and I remember it completely. And it's very funny, too. Albania, Albania, it borders on the Adriatic. You're a mountainous country, and your chief export is chrome. You're a communist republic, you're a red regime. Like, it told all the facts to music, and it just completely stayed with you. So he had this guy, in the bar singing, Albania, Albania. But I used when I taught immersion kindergarten. I taught immersion kindergarten for 3 years. And I would have them doing all kinds of math. They were 4-year-old class. All kinds of math through music. We would do elementary, my dear, 2 plus 2 is 4. Elementary, my dear, 3 plus 4 is elementary, my dear, 4 plus 4 is. And they were doing it. They were singing, completely singing it and doing it so fast. They were great. And then we do big numbers. But through music, they can remember the facts, and it engages them, and they want to do it. So why do we remember songs? Is it the melody, the lyrics, the title? It's all of it, but interestingly, mostly it's the words, but the melody hooks our mind to remember it. So what Jane Austen, Mansfield Park, had to say about memory, more wonderful than the rest. So perception. So using our sensory information we make judgments about what we see. But unfortunately, our judgments aren't always correct. So our judgments are very attuned to what we've grown up with thinking, or our perceptions can be very biased according to how we think. Now, I know my university students, if I said, let's speak only English, they go, I can't do English, I can't. So they are biased to think that they can't do. So you can also become biased to think you can. So our perceptions aren't always accurate. There's a famous YouTube, probably you're familiar with it, about some psychologists did an experiment that they had players dressed up in black T-shirts and white T-shirts, and they have a basketball, and the assignment was you watch the video, and you're supposed to only watch the players of the white shirts. How many times do they have the ball? And they're passing the basketball, and you're counting, you're watching the white team, white shirt players. And in the middle of this video, a gorilla comes in, and he pounds his chest and he goes out. And at the end of the video, most people did not see the gorilla. There was a gorilla in it, but they didn't see it because their perception was to only look for the white shirt team. So they didn't see it. So how many of the effective learning filters are happening with the students that they're not really seeing the whole picture, or they're not really picking up all the clues that are there? So music and perception. So music can affect your mood and also your actual perception. And there was a study out of Stanford that said music primes the brain for making decisions and to pay attention. So I know in Japan, everything's on a musical cue, right? Especially for young children, everything's on a cue. But if you think about your house, how many things are musical in your house? Does your rice cooker play a little tune when it's finished? Yeah? It makes a sound, or sometimes plays music. I had one that played some tune when it was ready. And how about the bath? It sings you a song in your bath. Anything else? The oil truck comes. When I lived in Yokohama, it had its own music. As kids growing up, we had the music of the ice cream truck we listened for, right? When you go running out to get your ice cream. But there are many, many things that are on a musical cue here that aren't in other countries, I think. So it's a great way. And of course, at kindergarten, music is used to gather. I have a gathering song and a hello song and a goodbye song. But everything, and bows in Japanese kindergarten, dum, 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 everything. Everything is to music, right? And they know. And I was teaching my 1-year-old class on Thursday, and I said, okay, let's start. And the little girl, I always start, we squat down on the floor, we count 5, 4. And I didn't do it yet, and the little girl went. She knew what to do. Like, it was ready. She knew the cue was coming. So that's another one. So people see what only they're prepared to see. So we'll try a little experiment on that in a little while. So the wheel. So really deciding on a course of action. So I think that's one of the big motivators. Usually kids who come to study, it's the parents who want them to study more than the kids want to study. So getting them motivated is one big factor. And I tell the university students, there's a famous quote from Henry Ford. If you think you can, or you think you can't, either way you're right. So I always say, please say you can speak English, or I'm becoming a better English speaker, because their image of if they can or they can't, is really affecting their performance. So focus and concentration. So music primes the mind, they say, to pay attention. So the kids usually are more perceptive and receptive to music. And there's actually some studies that scientists have put together specific music for different activities. This is music to relax. This is music for inspiration. There's music for concentration. So there are all different CDs that are supposed to prime the brain for different activities. So that's some other ways that could be used. I studied acting in New York, and one of the exercises was to look at an object, take an object and look at it for a minute, and then could you really describe that in detail to somebody else? So if you looked at a rose, or if you had to bring in something and you look at it, and then you have to truly describe it, putting all your focus on one thing. I think today, especially for children and the university students, we live in such a high-paced world, and they're so used to things changing immediately, and they've got the we and all of that stuff, and they're not used to concentrating. It's very difficult, I think, to get them to truly concentrate. Reason. So that's one of the big things that separates us from animals, right? So the ability to think logically. So it primes the nervous system, is what they say out of Stanford. Pay attention and organize events. And one way I'm using with small children, and this is another way, is to use cross-curriculum. We'll talk about that a little bit in the second hour. But using cross-curriculum like music and science, music and math. So this one is logical thinking. You get 3 hints, and then you have to say, what's the but that I'm talking about? And my kindergarten kids were very good at this one. And they've learned this song. So let's just see what this is about. Okay? So you can tell me what's the but. You get 3 hints. And these are all rhyming lyrics again. I saw a bug. I saw it late at night. I saw a bug. It had a neon light. I saw a bug. I put it in a jar. It's like a star. I like bugs. I like this game. How many bugs can you name? And you have to guess. What is it? Did I see in the sky a firefly? I saw a bug. I saw it flying high. I saw a bug up in a pale blue sky. I saw a bug. I saw its little back was red and black. Red and black? I like bugs. I like this game. How many bugs can you name? And then we go through beetle, ladybug, firefly, bee. It flies in daytime, not at night. Ladybug, you're right. Ladybird to you. So that's an idea of what we're doing. It goes through 4 different bugs. So getting them guessing, getting their minds thinking, and getting them listening also to rhyming lyrics. So what's coming up? Predicting. What's next?
Science fiction, not bugs.
Well,
They're not bugs. Bugs are special kind, but they're not bugs. I do better than that.
So deductive thinking. And yeah, I'm right on time here. So question.
Charles Butler was up by 3 seconds.
Oh, sorry. I skipped over a little bit there. Okay. Beautiful noble. Reason and calculation. That sounds some nice quotes. And well, any questions? Anybody comments, questions?
And when you're doing imagination, I've done something with some of my students
don't talk, they just listen, they draw whatever said. They can write words if they can't draw, or they can just draw anything that comes to their mind. Then they discuss it.
Yeah, that's good.
So that's been very effective. That was with higher level students. One other one as well, you were talking about how some words rhyme. I would suggest that if anybody's interested, does anyone know the pop group Squeeze? You heard of them? British pop group from the 1980s, which on my age. The way their lyrics rhyme is unbelievable. You said about how you could predict things. Try if I can remember. Can I? Say some of the things that goes, the song goes like, I never thought it would happen with me and a girl from Clapham. I only knew the common, that night I've not forgotten. I said you were a lady, perhaps she said I may be. So they don't exactly want it, very, very close. Or is it, she felt all her passions or something like the rations. But that group Squeeze, I would recommend them as they rhyme, but they don't rhyme perfectly. So that's someone tells someone students, well, they rhyme, but
in my experience, I work with a lot of college groups and part-time jobs out there. And one of the first activities you do is the name game, where it's like Matt, Evelyn, whatever, and you have to remember everyone in the room. If you make a mistake, you start all over. Entirely start over from that person. So no one can leave the room until you've got complete.
So you're not leaving the room.
You
can't leave your room.
Put yourself together pretty quickly. There's a ton of mistakes the first 8 to 10 minutes, but like I've never been like 20 minutes with 30 people. And that's kind of fun. That works.
Yeah, with memory.
Kind of fun.
Anybody else? No? Okay, so we have a break?
yeah, okay, so what time kids? Around 10, 15 minutes?
15 minutes.
Okay, looks like we've got some really good table over there. Okay. Thank you.
久しぶりですね。この間会えなかったから。先週でも来ましたよ。あれで。そうそう、ゆりこさんいなかったよ。Yeah, it always happens in the afternoon.
Right, bro? I know my home network is awesome, but
いや、教えてないです。とんでもないです。今私はまだ娘が夏休み中先生のクラスでもらってるから一緒に娘も一緒になってでも教材を一緒にしてるで家で子供に自分の子供に教えたいなそれぐらいはい
that way, you know, right now it's on two separate pages.
そう、お友
Kind of a pain.
ですよね。私もそういうまだレベルなので一緒にこう焼き付けてありがとうございます。
What were the additional costs necessary to make this work? The shotgun?
Yeah, but I don't even think that was really cool.
I I've seen this exact model on websites before, but I haven't seen it in person.
The stand is definitely insane.
Is this you and Leander or the new Susan Charlie? I have a feeling that, yeah, our old
Well, now it is. I don't know what happened. I can't access it.
Well, that Leander thinks he's against California.
What happened?
Leander says, yeah, it's kind of my fault. I put it together, but I didn't really have a plan for years of fashion.
Well, I don't know. For some reason, I can't get into it anymore. So here, we have the live stream page, and then we have the chat right below.
Oh, that's
now maybe just look at the site, which is our home page, and just do everything from here. Really, I'd like to chat here.
Well, see if you have frame, you want to frame right. I got you.
Yeah, well, I mean, at least follow that page right now.
That's cool. Is this the new Jones hierarchy? Jones saying that pushing out of vendor networks, so all the websites are better connected.
I haven't heard of that. That would be nice. I want to talk to. So this is, I'm actually.
I saw. So this is this is our
Yeah.
site. That's interesting. I didn't know they were there. I'm gonna go get a drink. I gotta get some money. Would you like anything?
No, I'm fine. Thank you.
I use food for my kids. I was in for about 15 months. Then you love this one. First one. Just one. I have a cat. I have a dog. I have a mouse. I have a drum. I have a snake. It's really cool. And I think to myself, I have a lake. It's really she's beautiful. Thank you. I use this one for my kindergartner. This is what I'm using for my junior high school. It's complicated because it's very easy to look for, but if you memorize the words, you can't memorize the words. And past tense, as well as present tense. It's a big no. When I told you, doing that now. Pretty much one sentence. Repeat everything. My big fat mouth. Eh? I don't know what she's singing, and suddenly I said, what? I really have a big fat mouth. Mom言わないから、マだよ、マ。ママだよね。I have a big fat mouth. そうよ。誰とか思って。So they can create their own phrase.